Ever turned down and found it strange why it stings so strongly? Better still, have you ever thought about how you may use that very rejection as your strongest tool? If such is the case, you are in the right place. We are exploring 13 wise lessons based in the ancient Stoic philosophy and Marcus Aurelius' wisdom. Today, very thoroughly, these classes will teach you reverse psychology and employ rejection as a tool to propel your own development and achievement. Stay around then. If you are ready to change your viewpoint and maybe even your romantic life, you very ought not to miss this. Before we start straight in, make sure you thumbs up this video and click the subscribe button. Trust me, you will want to watch till the very finish, since what you find here will drastically affect how you handle rejection, especially in relationships. Now, let's get into it. 1. Ignore them as well. Have you ever felt as like someone you love decided to ignore you, leaving you wondering what you did wrong? Maybe it was someone you knew really closely, and suddenly they seem just headed every few minutes. You search your phone for a message never found? Typical? The point is, though, what if you just ignored them back instead of pursuing them and pleading for their attention? Right, that seems counterintuitive. On this though, trust me, the best thing you could do is to ignore them. Think about it, you devalue them to take power as well. You're not at their pity, nor waiting for a text or a call. You stop giving them tools to control their emotions. Have you ever observed that people start noticing you after you stop looking after things? That is reverse psychology right in front of us. Let me tell a story. One friend of mine was totally in love with someone. They spent some months together. However, this individual started to fade all of a sudden. Depressed, my friend was always trying to figure out what went wrong. Still, they pulled away more the more he tried. He decided one day he was done. He turned to face himself, stopped phoning and texting. What happened next? Their ex started contacting once more, questioning why he had stopped talking. This is about understanding human behavior, not about games. When you ignore them back off, they start to question their own actions. They start to question, did I make a mistake? Why aren't they following me? Here's a question for you. Have you ever felt as though you were chasing someone who wasn't letting you the time of day? How did it personally affect you? Imagine now how liberating it would be to turn the script around and restore your sense of self and control by just not participating. Ignoring them suggests you care enough about yourself not to let their rejection define your value. Marcus Aurelius encouraged us to focus on our own business. We cannot control the feelings of another person. Still, your reaction depends on you. Ignoring them back off is helping you to restore control. Stay with me. The next step develops on this and is equally important for maintaining your dignity and peace of mind. 2. Stay calm and avoid emotional reactions. Let's talk about something we all have been guilty of: excessive emotional response to rejection. The first sting of breakup, someone ghosting you, or just a date turned down usually causes either grief, rage, or frustration. Though hurt is unavoidable, our reaction to that rejection will either benefit or damage us. The secret is to keep calm. Spoken another way, when you have spent time, money, and emotions on someone, reversal seems personal. Like a hit to your ego, less spoken is known. Still, Stoicism has great application here. Marcus Aurelius would explain to you that nobody can make you experience anything until you let them. Said another way, your emotional response is entirely under your control. Imagine this, you come upon love. In your mind, this individual is the perfect mate. Still, one day they tell you it's done. Usually the answer is anger, tears, a last-ditch effort at comprehension. But suppose instead you kept cool and inhaled deeply? Imagine telling them you are above it instead of responding emotionally. Let me relate a personal story here. One of my buddies went through a bad breakup. Devastated, he yearned for a snap back. He decided to step back and breathe instead. Just calm, no angry writings or emotional outbursts. Eventually, captivated by his composure rather than because she begged, his ex came back. People seek for an emotional response. They want you to break off and want still another chance. Ignoring their need for such fulfillment alters the power relationship. Keeping your cool appeals more and appears like control. Right now, ask yourself, have you ever emotionally reacted to rejection? Did it either help or distance the other person more? Imagine instead if you answered coolly, with dignity after inhaling deeply. How may that have changed conditions? Learning to regulate. Your emotional reactions will enable you to demonstrate to yourself rather than only to the other person your strength. And once you show yourself that, you will realize rejection defines not who you are. It is just a moment in time. Moments pass. 3. Clear your mind of their presence. How often have you become obsessed with someone who turned down you? Searching for the mistake, you go over every exchange, every text, every minute detail. You bring their presence with you everywhere, as though their absence is somehow louder than it was in your life. But what if I told you letting their absence clear your thoughts is the answer to moving forward? It is challenging, as I know. Everybody of us has been there. You are sitting by yourself and just think about them. Before you know it, hours have passed and you find yourself in a loop as you reread books, browse through old images. The truth is, though, letting them live rent-free in your thoughts is giving them power they are not due. Marcus Aurelius believed our ideas define our planet. If ideas of someone who turned from you fill your head, how can you focus on your own growth and happiness? Imagine what you could create from all that mental energy, your career, your hobbies, even your friendships, if you channel it into something worthwhile. One of my friends was in like state. He was overwhelmed since he dwelt on someone who had left him. It affected his employment, social life, and mental state. One day he had enough, he said. He started meditating, writing, and measuring his own personal growth. He purged his thoughts of their existence gradually but absolutely. And let me mention what else. Besides, he started to feel better. Fresh opportunities in love as much as in life started to show themselves. Let you now think on your own situation. Does someone else occupy in your mind undeserved space? How might your life be different if you turned less on them and more on yourself? It's time to get that mental energy back on target for your actual benefit. Eliminating their existence indicates you are allowing space for better things, not that you are completely forgetting them. Trust me, once you do this, you will feel lighter, more focused, and ready to meet anything life offers. 4. Show your worth through actions. You have most definitely heard the proverb, actions speak louder than words. This is especially true indeed in the wake of rejection. Rejecting someone demands considerable temptation to justify, defend, or seek for another chance. But let me tell you something, seldom ever does communication work. Your actions will show them your true value instead. Imagine someone rejecting you as effectively stating, they do not perceive your value. One easily falls into the trap trying to convince them differently. But supposing you only showed your value, instead of trying to articulate it using words? Marcus Aurelius believed that regardless of others, one should live morally, that is, do what is right and valuable. One of my pals suffered a terrible breakup. She was broken and wanted to explain to her ex why they should be together. She decided to focus on herself rather than on sending long paragraphs or seeking to meet up, though. She adjusted her training plan, gave her career some thought, and reconnected with friends. Her ex followed her life as it changed over time and got in touch. But by then, she had advanced to more important events. Showing your value by acts is not about dragging them back. It is about proving to yourself that you are more than their rejection. It makes no difference whether or not they witness. You are doing it for yourself. You are not doing it for others. Here is the question I have for you. How can you start today proving your value? Has any project you were postponing? One of your interests you have missed? This is the time to start researching those areas. Let the world see what you produce. Trust me. Once you start living purposefully and with direction, everything else will align. 5. Sever all contact. This is also one of the most important, even if it's clearly the toughest. Rejecting someone might lead to a strong need to stay in touch. You would think that keeping open lines of contact promotes healing. The harsh, cold fact is sometimes the best thing you can do is cut off all contact. I see your point of view. How can one completely turn off aid? Of course, if you stay in contact, they could change their mind, perhaps. Still, staying in touch will probably help you stay caught in a painful cycle. Every book, every call, every social media interaction brings back memories of what you have lost and keeps you from truly moving on. Let me relay a story of a friend of mine who went through this same struggle. He was completely in love with someone that thought differently. Like her posts, he kept emailing her and sporadically got together even after the divorce. But every touch hurts since it reminds of what might have been. Not able to let go, he was caught and unable to forward. He didn't begin to heal until he at last chose to cut all ties. Block her number, unfollow her on social media. Severing contact is not about trying to hurt or be cruel to the other person. It is about protecting your own emotional wellspring, keeping someone in your life after they have turned you aside. Essentially keeps the wound open. How can one heal when one lives with constant reminders of the suffering? Marcus Aurelius counsels us to focus on the things under our control. One thing we can change is our decision to stop hanging around with someone who doesn't appreciate you. Think of it as if every time you resist the need to text them or check their Instagram, you are strengthening yourself. You are pulling part of your power back in. Severing contact addresses both yourself and them individually. I deserve better, you are saying, and I won't settle for anything less. I see now that this is more challenging than it sounds. Particularly if you still feel something for them, cutting someone off is terrible. But I have a question. Have you ever stayed in touch with someone who was rejected? Did it keep you locked in a cycle of yearning and disappointment or make you feel better? Cutting all contact is not about acting out of spite or burning bridges. It's about giving oneself permission to grow and heal. Clutching the past will not propel you. And once you let go, fresh contacts, ideas, and experiences will find you. Cut off all contact with the individual who turned you down. Then, as challenging as it may be, give yourself time and space to rediscover your value. Then focus on your own pleasure. Once you reach this, you will begin to feel lighter, more in charge of your life and less depressed. 6. Let your success prove them wrong. Let us now be briefly sincere. They have all been there, rejected, discounted, made to feel as though are inadequate. It hurt, especially when someone you love distances you. But let me ask you this. Suppose you let your success speak for itself, rather than seeking words to defend yourself. Go back to a moment from your life when you faced rejection. Like what made you start to doubt yourself? Imagine now if you could ascend still higher with that rejection as fuel. Instead of turning to them for approval, you give your whole attention to your own development, not about exacting payback or making them regret you. This is about proving to yourself that you are capable of great things. My close friend went through a terrible split here personally. Broken, he kept thinking how he might bring her back. Then something changed. He focused his complete focus toward his work instead of looking for her. 1 year fast forward. He was blossoming in his career, fitness, and even starting a side company. And now, try to guess what? His ex came crawling back, suddenly seeing what she had lost. This leads me to one of the most important truths I could teach you. Success is the loudest truth available. People see you thriving, content, living your best life. Those turned down could come to regret their decision, but by then you won't even give it any thought. You will keep quite busy living your life. So let me ask you, has rejection ever motivated you to grow? If not, this right now offers your chance. Keep from giving anyone the satisfaction of thinking they were justified in leaving you. Show them what they missed by acting in the best form of yourself. Stay with me since the next step is equally important. Sometimes the best thing you can do is completely ignore them. 7. Focus on enjoying life. Let's pause momentarily. How recently did you truly turn on appreciating life? Not for someone else, not to wow someone, but just for yourself? One easily forgets that life has much more to offer and gets trapped in the rejection of others. Here's a new idea. Instead of obsessing over why they drifted away from you, focus on enjoying life. Imagine this. You have been turned down. The usual reaction is to sulk, go back over every contact, and contemplate what you might have done better. Conversely, what if you decide to spend time with friends? Pick a hobby you enjoy, or perhaps travel somewhere new. Though the influence can be great, it sounds simplistic. Let me tell you about a friend who went through a painful separation. First depressed, she moped in her loss for weeks. Still, one day she decided she had had enough of self-loathing. She took up painting, a hobby she had always wanted to try. She started traveling, visiting other restaurants, and spending her weekends with friends. She knew she was smiling more than she had years before. And forecast what? Her ex registered interest. Suddenly they express interest again, but by then she had moved on. Focusing on your own happiness has immense power. Not only do you feel better, but the others around you also notice when you're busy enjoying life. Even that is intriguing and magnetic. Let me so question you, when was the last time you participated in activity just for yourself? How recently did you truly value your own business or participate in an activity you enjoy? Think about it for a moment. Life too short to spend it fixating on rejection. The second idea builds on this. Raising your social level will help you generally as well as in your romantic life. 8. Elevate your social standing. Here's something you might not have thought of. People's impressions of you mostly rely on your social level, especially after rejection. This is not now about trying to one-up someone or seem shallow. It's about living a life that appeals since you have evolved socially as well as emotionally. Imagine this. You decide to level out rejection. You start to grow individually, go to more social events, and meet new friends. Suddenly, more present in events, you shape whatever you come across. People start to become aware. And now comes the worst, the person rejected down your application. They start to see you rather differently. The explanation is underscored because you have improved personally as well as socially. Let me just show you an example here. One friend of mine was going after people he didn't appreciate, locked in a circle of rejection. Then he decided to control his social life. He started showing up for networking events, hanging out with friends more consistently, and even started public speaking. Over time, his social circle broadened and he began to draw people others wanted to be around. His ex-partnership, they saw him right away as more than just the person they had turned aside. He had matured and it was clear. Have you then ever tried to raise your social level after rejection? It's more about projecting confidence and value than about popularity. For its own sake, people tend toward those who are self-secure and social active. Spending money at your socioeconomic level is investing in you. We will next go over something far more powerful. Acting as though the person turned down does not even exist. 9. Act as if they don't exist. To be really honest, it's hard not to consider the person after rejection. You might be interested in their activities, business, or whether they are thinking about you. Here's some advice though, which sounds extreme. Pretend they never exist. Hear me, I understand it looks harsh. You liberate yourself the minute you stop sensing their presence, psychological as much as physically. You stop bidding your time for theirs. You stop looking at whether someone liked your post or messaged you. Instead, you give yourself and your own life first importance. I start with a personal story. One friend of mine started wondering about the person who turned them down constantly. It seized control of them. Then, though, they determined to act as though this person never existed. They psychologically cut them off, stopped looking for them at events, and stopped keeping an eye on their social media. Not long later, they felt lighter and more under control. And intriguing enough, the person turned them down, inquiring about why they were not getting appreciation anymore. They stretched themselves. So let me ask you, can you name someone you have devoted too much mental energy to? Someone undeserving of life in your mind pays rent-free? Just think on how much more peace you would have if you acted as though they did not exist. This is not about presuming they never mattered. Emphasizing your personal growth and reclaiming your emotional territory is about 10. Maintain a quiet distance. Have you ever experienced the contradictory anguish of wanting to be close to someone who has turned away? Not simple either. Though maybe the wisest line of action is to preserve a peaceful distance. You could find yourself needing to call out and check in. This is about letting them and you the breathing room, not about absolutely excluding them. Imagine yourself going through a tough rejection. Your urge is to keep in contact since you think it will help to save the relationship. Actually though, sometimes keeping too close carries the risk of prolonging our misery. Maintaining a quiet distance allows you to recuperate and think about things. I remember a friend who was quite committed to someone who did not share those feelings. After the rejection, he wanted to remain friends, but every time they got together, it was like rubbing salt on a fresh cut. Before he decided to back off, he lacked clarity. Giving each other space would let him to reflect on what he actually desired and needed, thereby enabling him to proceed free from ongoing reminder of what he had lost. Think back on your personal history. Have you ever tried to keep close to someone you turned down? In what way did it affect you? Sometimes distance helps you regain your strength and reminds you of your uniqueness apart from that relationship. That calm distance will allow you to rediscover your passions, goals, perhaps new acquaintances that motivate you. Maintaining a little distance is like saving your heart. It allows you to go over your feelings twice. You never know. Sometimes the lack piques the curiosity of the other person and enables them to see what they are missing. Still, you will be reclaiming your control and stressing your own journey independent of their reaction. 11. Never plead for attention. Rejecting someone might lead to emotional upheaval that drives one craving for approval to become extreme. If you only explain yourself one more time, you could find yourself wanting to get their attention, thinking that they will see your importance. To be very honest though, most of the time begging backfires and hardly works. Go back to a time you felt passed over or neglected. It might be embarrassing and taxing to pursue someone who seems to not care. Imagine instead refusing to beg someone to pay attention, standing straight and raising your head high. Not about pride, this is about embracing your innate value. Here is a gripping story about a woman who deeply loved a man who did not feel the same way back. In months of trying to win him over, she lavished him with attention, gifts, and heartfelt notes. Still, all it did was push him farther distance. She finally decided to stop asking and switched her focus toward herself, following interest, spending out with friends, and making investment in her future. Her life suddenly was bright and happy, and guess what? The very someone who had ignored her started to see. Have you ever run across a like situation? Usually, the moment you stop seeking validation from someone else is the one you start to attract excellent attention. Declaring not to seek their attention says powerfully, "I am enough just as I am." Remember that you deserve someone who sees your worth without seeking permission. Refusing to plead and maintaining your ground helps you to create an environment where respect grows, and you may find that the right person will turn up appreciating all you are. 12. Be kind, but keep your emotions guarded. It's easy to let your feelings run wild following a rejection. Nevertheless, there is wisdom in being polite while still under control. This is about showing compassion and yet protecting your feelings, not about you being cold or detached. Imagine a day when someone upset you. Instead of responding angrily, you responded compassionately. Being courteous in the face of rejection asks for resilience. Imagine yourself running across someone else you hurt or your ex. Instead of telling them you're hurt, you smile and wish them well. This displays maturity as well and protects you from more hardship. One friend I know attacked this challenge head-on. Someone he really liked turned him down and he was heartbroken. He decided to treat things softly instead of souring himself. He maintained his dignity by celebrating her new marriage. Helping him recover will enable him to go on free from resentment. I want you to now give your personal experiences some thought. Have you ever had the chance to act compassionately after a tragedy? It evoked what feelings? Remember, being polite does not mean you have to dismiss your own feelings. It's about knowing your emotions and choosing not to let them control you. Keeping your emotions under control helps you to create the room for recovery. It allows you to exhibit compassion without violating more pain rules. Approaching rejection with compassion not only benefits you but also defines the future tone of stronger relationships. 13. Keep your struggles private. Online sharing of every grief and difficulty is simple in our hyper-connected age. Still, sometimes hiding your difficulties is the best way to protect your heart and mental clarity. Consider this. Do you really have to tell everyone about a trying circumstances you find yourself in? Often revealing your sorrow leads to unsolicited advice or judgment, which can compound your situation. Think about instead privately digesting your feelings. Imagine a story of a young woman who was turned down. Rather than revealing her feelings on social media, she chose to notify a few close friends. By hiding her issues, she established a pleasant setting free from outside pressure that allowed recovery. This let her find clarity and power free from feeling exposed. Has posting too much on social media ever made you feel overburdened following a breakup? Although it can be cathartic in the moment, most times it causes regrets. Keeping your challenges hidden helps you to develop and think free from outside influence. Imagine this. If you decide to keep some issues to yourself, how would your road of healing change? You might find that the silence of the outer world lets you have the flexibility to more really digest your emotions. Keeping your issues under wraps does not imply you are isolated. It only means you are choosing to travel your journey the way fit for you. This approach helps you grow personally and increases resilience, thereby helping you to emerge on the other side stronger. Conclusion: maybe you will find advantage in learning how to empower yourself and navigate rejection as we wrap up these thoughts. Each of these phases is about reclaiming your power and valuing your contribution. Remember that nobody else defines you in any sense. Having said that, pleasantly observed. Until next time.